Humans were using boats before we invented the wheel. For nearly 10,000 years, we harnessed the world's rivers, lakes, and oceans for transport and trade without leaving any carbon footprint. However, within just 200 years, steam and combustion power turned the marine industry into a major contributor of global carbon pollution. We urgently need change. Fortunately, electric-powered boats provide us with a cleaner, quieter, more sustainable solution. And that's where we come in. IEMA is a non-profit, industry-backed association with a clear mission to effect a real and lasting decarbonization of the world's waters. We bring together innovative companies, municipalities, and government authorities to collaborate, share knowledge, and solve problems. In short, we advocate on behalf of our members to accelerate the entire electric marine industry. Contact us if you're interested to learn more. Together, we can help preserve the vital resource of the Earth's waters and embrace a cleaner, brighter future for all.
Good afternoon. Welcome to inaugural IEMA Annual General Meeting. I'm very happy to be here today because it's been not even 8 months ago that we made, the announcement, the first press release, and it was downstairs at the same building. And 8 months later, we are here today with all the progress that right now we're going to review. So there is a personal satisfaction to see, that all this effort is right now bringing us all together here today. Before we review the agenda, I would like to thank the Yacht Club of Monaco, led by Bernard Alessandri, for hosting us in such iconic landmark. And as part of this global event, Energy Boat Challenge, which, you see how amazing it is, how much energy is by the water, and which we are proud to contribute. Once again, thanks to the Yacht Club of Monaco. To start, we will review the highlights of the first few months of IEMA in the global scene. The progress, the challenges, and what are the short and long-term objectives as we learn how to shape the future of the industry. After this presentation, we will have 2 panel discussions on the subjects of talent and academia and the importance of data. For those who don't know about IEMA, we are a global alliance of companies and institutions from across the entire electric and alternative energy systems for the maritime industry, specifically focused on accelerating this sector's remarkable growth and addressing collectively all future challenges in the industry for safety and efficiency purposes. IEMA was launched in September 2023. We started with 15 founding members. Some of you are here today. Today we have over 70 members, which is way more what I could expect. Our main objectives is to bring together innovation and technology players across the entire industry. We also collaborate closely with other knowledge partners, other nonprofits and associations, including CHAR-IN with its international program, Blue Sky Maritime in DC, Oceans North in Canada, and all the National Electric Boats Association. Some of you are here today. Our members currently represent the entire chain of value, from shipyards, battery makers, software, and AI, to electric chargers, ports, marinas, and certification agencies. Whether you're a public traded company or a pre-revenue startup, all we are interested in is in your capacity of innovation for design and brain power. IEMA is the place to be for anyone interested in what's happening in the alternative power maritime industry. Let's talk about our membership. We expect to reach 100 members by the end of 2024. and 150 members by the end of 2025. Let's say that it's not about the quantity, it's the quality. We need cross-representation on each one of these key sectors. And the rule of three. If we don't have a minimum of 3 right, proper competitors, we cannot say that we represent that segment. Currently, with special attention to service and public transportation, ferries and water taxis, shipyards and operators, and fishing sectors. Starting in 2025, we're looking to expand our membership in the areas of cruising in collaboration with CLIA, which is the Cruising Association, International Association, and cargo sectors in collaboration with BIMCO. In order to gain the respect of the regulatory bodies, we must achieve majority cross-representation in every sector. I'm going to repeat this, a few times because this is one of our mantras and main objective. Being part of AEMA is a continuous benefit in our members and their interests. We are young and humble, but we are ambitious. We are doers. And as you noticed, we are extremely passionate. AEMA currently employs 2 full-time and 4 part-time staff. We have representatives in the US with Jeffrey Poole, Carlos Freire in the EU, UK, Jamie, who was here yesterday, in China with Chang, represented here today, and Australia with Chris, who is here today with us. All of our representatives are working pro bono, and I want to thank them for their great enthusiasm and support. If you want to collaborate and become an ambassador of AEMA, please talk to us, we need you. Increasing cooperation with academia and other non-profit organizations is crucial. We need the support and guidance of national partners who are familiar with the regional networks and cultural nuances. We're international. We cannot get too thin, we cannot get too granular. We don't have the network. That's why it's so important to have that grid of connections and those partners on the ground. We established some of these partnerships already, but we continue to do it in those key markets. Our focus is mainly in the markets of US, Canada, EU, India, China, and the South Pacific, with South Korea, Japan, and Australia. The EU leads its innovation representation. China is leading the source of sustainable energy growth and investment in microgrids and the battery market. US, Canada, federal green funds, such as Inflation Reduction Act and their Clean Ports program, are backing up unprecedented amount of infrastructure renovations with the result of MCS shore power, which paves the way to CCS. We anticipate continuous flat growth in the recreational electric boating, mostly due to still economic uncertainty, COVID normalization, and high entry cost. Commercial boating is the fastest growing electric boat tier worldwide. The commercial sector, including public transportation, especially interurban water taxis, service boats, fishing boats, and tourist resort boat operators, is expanding rapidly in all major economies, particularly in seasonal regions such as the Caribbean and Southeast Asia. Surprisingly, large ports worldwide, LA, Detroit, Barcelona, Rotterdam, are investing heavily in infrastructure to adapt to IMO, International Marine Organization, demands. They are leading the conversations on green corridors, understanding that modernization and sustainable efficiency are crucial to remain competitive in the international trade market. Dear members, this is our bedrock. This is where billions are being invested to accommodate shore power services, build substations, develop microgrids, and electrify operations. This investment ultimately extends to the smaller tiers of the maritime ladder. We are partnering with International Association of Ports and Harbors, Port of Barcelona, Port of Miami, Port of Pensacola, and other major ports mentioned previously. They have the capital. They are the landlords. And they are the big players paving the way. Most importantly, they're all looking to implement your technologies. We need them as much as they need you. Looking ahead, let's review some of the real and potential challenges ahead for the electric marine sector. As we mentioned before, recreational market growth is expected to remain in single digits or negative. Reticence from some of the electric utility industry to comply with municipal and state compliance regulations. Outdated grid in many countries requires the consideration of microgrid solutions. Elections in the US and Europe could slow the course of progress for a period of time. Betting the biofuels as an alternative. It's been pretty common conversation among AEMA members. And in the event that we could use, that biofuels will be, available, although the main question is the production, which at this point is, let's say, almost inexistent. It accounts for less % of the global fuel tank production. And the event that we could use food crops to produce, our industry would cop up the majority of the fuel as they will pay the top price barrel. So if you come across this opposition, don't let the smoke and mirrors distract from the true reality. There are no alternatives. As a civilization, we must replace fossil fuels and combustion engines in order to survive. Dear members, on a personal note, I urge you to consider stepping in your collaboration in production, maintenance, and customer service. Things might get financially tight, and you are spreading globally. So it's time to rethink how you're deploying your production and distribution facilities. You can share costs, concentrate activities, and pool skilled labor, hoping tomorrow, during all closed sessions, we can brainstorm together. Interconnectivity and real-time information are key in the new digital era. That's why we are excited to announce Cudlipp as our new feature available by the second week of September, currently being tested internally. Every member will have their login and be invited to the channel according to their tier membership. We encourage you to participate actively. Terms and conditions will be provided in the invitation email. This platform will be the place to ask peers about technical questions, the best vendors, or talent recommendations, and it will be the first of its kind in the industry. A true statement about communication and connectivity. For our corporate members, we have finally found a way to facilitate those internal monthly conversations and provide it through a synchronous management platform. We had so many difficulties to loop in our Asian members and West, US members on crazy morning hours. So finally, it seems that everybody will be able to collaborate, at their own pace. This will be key to our secretariats at ISO and other regulatory bodies, and speed up our future publications. So, what are the objectives of the next 12 months? Consolidate our mission, cross-representation power, international policy strategy, and impact. Consolidate our mission. While we all share the common goal of decarbonizing the world's waters, we must continuously define and refine our mission boundaries to ensure alignment with our charter and representation of our members. This ongoing review will keep our mission statement true and impactful. The second one, cross-representation power. I've emphasized many times in one-to-one conversations the importance of cross-representation. Without it, we cannot gain the legitimacy needed to lead the industry. By joining AEMA, you're contributing to the protection of enhancement of the category and acknowledging that this is more than just a movement. It's about replacing an outdated, unsustainable model with one that is more profitable and forward-thinking. Third one, international policy strategy. This is probably the most challenging objective. Each market has its own agendas and energy roadmaps, making it difficult to unify them in a single action plan. This complex and costly exercise requires time, allies, and an understanding of cultural nuances and geopolitics. With guidance from ocean advocates, lobby agents, and energy experts, our first goal is to identify common and overlapping measures implementing by these markets. We're starting to visualize our strategy, especially towards large infrastructure projects, along with the ports being members already, and carbon tax credits policy adoption. The fourth one, impact. The most abstract yet crucial objective. No association or foundation can achieve its goals without proving and tracking impact. Can we demonstrate that our actions are reducing global emissions? Can we measure the impact of partnering with YCM on the future skilled labor force? We need data, time, and collaboration from all of you to measure these indicators. This will help us convince the public of the benefits and attract high net worth individuals to support our cause. Before we jump into the panelists, I would like to recognize the team's dedicated passion, our team. I want to acknowledge the pro bono contributions from our representatives, board of directors, and all the collaboration who believe, and all those collaborators who believe in this mission. They understand that it takes everyone's effort to bring it to life, and more importantly, to make an impact. Lastly, if you are AEMA, you represent AEMA wherever you go. We encourage you to share our mission and invite others to share the same goals, to join and participate in this debate. Without you, this would not be possible. Thank you for being here today. Let's now move to the second part of the event and welcome our panelists on stage. Talent, academia, and the future of the professional landscape. What are the evolving skills and competencies needed in the maritime industry? What will be the strategies to attract and retain diverse talent? How to continue the collaboration between industry and academia? Our goal is to explore how we can prepare and empower the next generation of maritime professionals in a rapidly changing environment. Before we dive into our discussion, please welcome our panelists, Sue, Giz, and Chris. Whatever order. You have your mic, you can turn it on. Who wants to be the first one to? Sue, since you're here next to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We start with presenting ourselves?
Yes.
That's it? Super. I'm Sue Putallaz. I'm co-founder and CEO of MobyFly. MobyFly is hydrofoil boats for transportation and dedicated to the fast ferry market. We took the best of the racing world and coupled it with the requirement of transportation to bring hydrofoil zero-emission boats for transportation, to have what you showed first in the video, a clean, transportation that respect our environment. Everyone look at the sky and see, oh, it's polluting, but actually the waterborne transportation is as big as the airline industry. It's more than 2.1 billion passengers per year. And it's easier to decarbonize the maritime transportation than the airline industry today. That is a fact. The technology is here, is ready. Of course, there is some hurdles, legislations, etc. But it's today available for the market, and we see today the market demand is huge. What we need is to organize, and you talked about talents. We need to bring the best talent within our companies to go faster in these marine decarbonation. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Makkonen. I am working in Kempower as a segment owner of Marine and Ports. Kempower is a charger hardware provider. We are providing DC fast chargers for different kind of segments. And of course, as Adria mentioned, that the marine industry is one of the main segments that we are focusing on. Kempower is a stock-listed company from Finland. We are focusing to provide very fast charging solutions for different applications. If you're looking outside the window, you can see, for example, our chargers in the pier. So we are providing those to our client, Aqua Superpower, there. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Cudlipp. I'm the CEO of Seavolt. We're an Australian-based and now French-based charger company. We're rolling out marine charging networks. Our point of difference, I guess, is our real focus is making sure that we supply 100% renewable electricity to all of those chargers, because the key point of all of this electrification of the marine industry is to remove greenhouse gases, and if the electricity is generated by fossil fuels, then there's really no point. So our particular push is to make sure that electricity going through our chargers is 100% renewable, and that lets us get involved in microgrids, as Adria has mentioned, and constructing microgrids of solar in Australia to feed those chargers, and particularly in the region that we're operating in at the moment, which is Southeast Asia and the Pacific. The vast majority of the grid-delivered electricity is generated by fossil fuels. So there needs to be a clear delineation between the electricity going into the vessels and the cars, obviously, and we're focusing on that. So it's obviously products like Kempower is how we deliver it, but we're also concentrating on what's going into the chargers and into the boats.
Fantastic. Since you have the micro, let's start with you, Chris. What are the key skills and competencies that future professionals will need to succeed?
I mean, it's a very diverse industry. It's a new industry. I think of what's happening right now is the Industrial Revolution 2.0. I mean, everything is changing on land and on sea, and that means that pretty much across every touch point of talent, there's a new skill set required. So the thing that is going to drive change most quickly from a talent point of view is the passion that we're seeing downstairs with everybody with the Energy Boat Challenge, and that enthusiasm to provide and work in a whole new form of propulsion. So the first thing that we're looking to is people across every sector of the employment chain is that passion to make a difference, because everybody coming into this industry is coming into startup land. We're all at the very beginning of our corporate journeys, which means that passion replaces cash a lot of the times. When you first start, it's not going to be the place where you go to start a young career looking for a huge salary. It's going to be where the passion is going to drive you into a very fast-growing industry. So we're really, whenever we talk to people, it's their enthusiasm that's the most important thing. You know, everybody can train as an electrician or as a boat builder or as a software guy. I mean, or, you know, that's just kind of a standard skill set. And the great thing about the electrification of the marine industry, of course, is we're using existing tech in a lot of situations where, you know, not everything is new development. A lot of it's off the shelf, which is fantastic. So people can be trained quickly and engage in that. But, you know, from our point of view, we just want that extra kicker on top of that, which is, you know, a bunch of young people going, we can make a difference, we want to be part of that. And that's exciting, particularly sitting here as an old white guy, you know, wanting to apologise for the mess that we've made and hoping that we can help make a change.
Very good points, and I want to add there that of course there is now as you mentioned, the big revolution ongoing, and I think last time it happens when the boats change the steam engines to the diesels, and of course these changes cause a lot of challenges that need to be tackled. But I think the motivation to understand the real needs, that the challenges of the industry, and then of course the curiosity that this change is causing there. So you really need to have this like a fresh and open mind to come to the industry and really start tackling those problems. And of course for that you need a lot of different backgrounds. As we need the electrical engineers, we need the naval architects, we need the software engineers. And all those people need to work together. And I think that's a very, very crucial point for the companies, that how we are able to get those talented minds to our companies and get them to work together.
I agree for passion. It's the first and the basis of everything. If you are passionate by the transition, by the boating industry. Well, actually we are on the hydrofoil world, so we mix airplane with boating, so we're a bit special. We fly over the water, so that's another experience than traditional boating. It's better. But for the talent, we expect also people that are able to bring their talent and their passion and to contribute to a better world. Curiosity is a key, but also the willingness to think out of the box and be capable of taking what we do today at MobyFly. We take also processes from the automotive industry, from the airplane industry, to have our industrial platform. And we mix. Why stay in one thing that have been always the same? Innovation is not only on technology, it's also in the process. And that means also a lot of flexibility in mindset. And I think what would make also our company successful is to attract diversity in the talents. And for me, it's a real challenge to have diversity in the company. And sometimes you have to go really to school to be sure to have some talents come into the company and bring diversity, because it's also key. We don't think the same. And the last thing is also, when we attract talent, we try to have people that have patience and that have something in their lives that bring them passion, that can be also make a balance with their professional life, and we give them space for this passion. We have a lot of our engineers that are in sailing, and sometimes it's not easy to give them time for this, but it's very important because this new generation is smarter than our generation, and they want to have a balance. And as corporations, we should give them this freedom to balance their passion and their professional life, because they are smarter than us, and it's their future.
That reminds me, not long ago, IEMA, we were in Barcelona with some of you, and it caught my attention when we visited the American Magic Hub, that there were some former F1 professionals there, very high-end, mathematicians and physicists, and to me it's relevant that they were able to attract this kind of talent. Now this is maybe top one, but still traditionally maybe the industry has been perceived as somehow old and boring. Should the companies understand that that requires a better compensation packages, better, more clear, career paths, accommodating some of these expectations on reconciliation with their other, personal lives? What do you think that companies can do to adapt and attract this talent?
It's exactly that. It's leave them the freedom to live also their passion, because they don't want to be 100% unprofessional. They also want a balance. Today, you all know that there is very soon the competition of the America's Cup, and some of our people are involved in the America's Cup. So we have, these resources are missing in-house, but it's this passion they live there that can then allow us also to be more efficient within the company. So it's not just about giving them option plan or whatever. Okay, it can be, but it's not, in my sense, what I've seen from the new generations, it's not the most important. What they want is to have a balance and live their passion and have a professional life that allow them to balance.
I totally follow your thoughts, and I think the key there is to feed the passion. So if they want to develop something by themselves, which is also feeding the industry, so of course the company needs to be flexible to support also these passions that the employees are having also in their personal lives. And sometimes this is also bringing some benefits for the companies. So, for example, in our companies, we have, even we are building chargers, we have guys who are developing their own electric cars, electric motorcycles, etc. So, and this know-how also brings the automotive knowledge to our company. When we have guys like these, that they don't only understand the charger, they can only understand what is there on wheels or on water. So I think, of course, I think this is also especially these old-fashioned company ways that you need to be 110% dedicated only for your company. But I personally disagree a bit, because I think this freedom is keeping these engineers happy, and of course the happy engineer then is more creating more value also for the companies.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. It's really important that we attract the best talent. And obviously, in a very competitive market for highly educated, highly talented people, you've got to have a competitive package. It's got to be a competitive financial package. It's got to be a competitive lifestyle package. It's got to give them really much more say in how they run their work-life balance. The old paradigm shift of it's a 40-hour week and we expect you to work 80, that's over. As a small company, we have taken the position at Seavolt that we can offer and will offer competitive remuneration to key staff, because very selfishly, that makes us a much more attractive investment opportunity for the ESG investment money that's floating around. If we have the best talent, they're properly paid, we not only get a better product and deliver a better product and service, it actually helps us as a corporation by being a better product to the investment community, which is what ultimately is going to drive all of the electric boat and electric charger companies for the next 5 years. It's not going to be cash flow from customers, it's actually going to be investment. It's going to be raising capital to keep you going. And so to do that, instead of having a couple of passionate older people at the top of the company telling everybody how good we'll be, we have really, really good young staff that are delivering every day, and that actually rounds out what our offering is as a company.
Chris, the relationship between academia and the private sector, right? There is people that think that they should be working under the same roof, and some people believe that we should leave them alone to gain the critical thinking and the skills and the mindset to allow to actually innovate the day of tomorrow. But definitely there should be, a relationship between, because there is a lack of expected lack of qualified labor already and projected over the next 10 years. How would you think from the private sector that we could fill up this gap and talk with the academic world?
I actually think that talking to academia and getting them involved in at this sort of level, I think is important. But I think the interesting thing with this generation of students is they are not finding themselves constrained by operating in the academic bubble. So even the PhD students that are developing new ideas are very engaged with the commercial sector because they have to be. And so I find that we're getting more engagement with academia from the grassroots, from the students themselves, from the younger doctorate students and people like that who are coming to us, or companies in the sector, because they've sort of leapt ahead of the old thinking that ties academia to the old ways. And I think there's a big part of everything that we're doing now is let's throw out the old models. The old models are busted. They don't work anymore. What's the point? Where everything has got to happen so much faster than the traditional ways have allowed it to happen, because, to use Stephen Hawking's line, there is no planet B, and everything is dire now. The tipping point's been reached. The global warming issue is so extreme. And the younger generation is feeling that so passionately and desperately that they are actually leaping outside of the old paradigms to come and have the conversations and pitch ideas and just use social media and modern technology to break through the barriers that we were used to be stuck behind. So it's actually very enabling for these ideas to percolate out much more quickly than they have in the past. I mean, I don't know what you're all are finding in your different parts of the industry, but certainly for us, we're getting approaches all the time where people just go, "I've got this crazy idea, what do you think?" And we can go, "Well, yeah, let's talk about it." Bring that to the fore. They're still within academia, but they're not waiting for the sort of formal processes to happen. So I guess that's what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. GC, as a public traded company on the north, do you talk with academia, or you refrain from those actions?
I think that's a very, very valid point, because if we are thinking e-mobility as an industry, it's a very, very new industry for the whole world, and there is only few universities, for example, where you can select as the e-mobility as your major subject. In Kempower, our approach is that we are now opening, or actually, we opened these project research development centers with 2 universities. One is in Finland, one is in US. And the motivation why we wanted to do that is that there, for example, now when we are getting a new electrical engineer to our company, they don't know all their know-how, what is the e-mobility, what are the challenges there. But when we are able to go and educate them already during the university years, they are more mature for the industry when they are joining to our company. And that's why in Kempower we are seeing that's a very, very big benefit to develop these strings to the universities, for example. And then, of course, what the universities can also do is this long-term development. So they are not focusing today, they are focusing on tomorrow technologies, solutions, and some of the developments, they will fly, some of them won't, but I think it is still a very, very good thing for the industry that we are able to train and educate these dedicated guys for the dedicated industry sectors.
So, in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, we have the chance to have very, very good university system. We have the ETH Zurich, we have EPFL, and with the universities are investing a lot in innovation, and that is definitely a chance. And they work a lot with corporations also to develop more projects and try to involve students since the start in the project. And what we do, I mean, in the hydrofoil world and hydrofoil for transportation, zero emissions, there is no expertise and no experience of the industry that they can be shared by the professors and the academia. So the academia is also interested in working with the companies like MobyFly to also improve themselves, the field, and have it, and try to develop also the field with the students. But for today, it works on projects, shared projects, internship. It's the way that we do, and we try to collaborate as much as possible. We don't have yet the means to have like you, but that would be a great way indeed to share, because it's not about, if I take just one example, the flight control. The flight control of the boat, it's of course software, but it's a software that is linked to navigation. It has been inspired by the drone industry, so it's not something that you can find in a book today, and it's really at the early stage. So we have developed our flight control since now almost 15 years in the racing and in sailing, but you know, we cannot find a student that knows about flight control system. So we have to, you know, take the passionate people and try to coach them and try to, you know, we have to teach them the skills. We cannot just take them from the academia. That is the issue. So we have to invest in the people that we want to grow with us.
Yes, no question. Quick. I was with my nephew the other day, and he's, you know, low 20s. He have 3 jobs. He's a developer. Do you employ any fractional? Do you have any fractional employee, and you're comfortable with that type of relationship? Yes or no?
You mean someone that has 3 different jobs?
Other jobs, yeah.
We have one of our engineers. Well, it's not a job, but he's a sailor. So he's part-time at MobyFly and part-time a sailor because it's his passion.
Okay, so yes.
Yes, definitely.
Of course, everything comes to the value. So if that person is a superstar who knows, for example, the software, of course the company is always happy to work with a person like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and yes. Yeah, absolutely. If they bring something good and we get a benefit from it and it works for everybody, then why not? Back to that thing of, you know, the 40-hour week is a dead concept.
Yeah.
I would say the only limit would be, of course, competition. So if you cannot work for competition, because then might be a problem.
Well, I think that we could break, you know, those rules. What about if there is a group of the most talented, you know, engineers in foil that can advise to every company in the industry? Everybody plays with the same kind of resources. Then the difference is the brand, right? Is how do you present the brand? How do you? And here, I don't know. This is challenging the status quo, but.
Then you have to change the mindset of the investors first.
Agreed. Next question. What are the areas of expertise that are currently underserved? What are the skill sets we're lacking?
Flight control.
I have been now working with 2 companies, ABB Marine and nowadays Kempower, and it seems that in every company there are 2 different kind of people missing: very good electrical engineers and very good software engineers.
Definitely software engineers that can generate consumer-friendly end products. It's a very, very hard area for us to get right. Battery engineers, this is going to be a huge area of evolution in our industry, and I think the world generally is screaming out for innovative battery engineers, and the different tech that's coming in that space. I think that's probably the 2 most pressing areas for our business. We're also looking at a lot of solar engineers as well, and incorporating solar into marine environment, floating solar, new platforms for floating solar. So, solar engineers, software engineers, and battery engineers in the marine space. So a lot of batteries and things are good on land, but absolutely rubbish in the water, as you all know, and that's an area that's evolving very quickly, and where a lot of investment is going, and a lot more brain power needs to go.
As last question to Dream and following this thread, what would be, a profession that yet doesn't exist today, but you think that will become, necessity or very common, skill in the future, 10 years, 15 years from now? Let's dream big.
Wow. Okay. Can I have that on notice? I think there'll be a lot of professions in 10 years' time that are different from what we're doing now, simply because propulsion is changing all around the world, on land and on sea. So I don't know what they're going to be called, but you kind of stumped me there a little bit. But I think. No, I don't know. I don't actually have an answer.
All right.
Sorry.
Maybe the public will help us a little bit.
Yeah, very difficult question. But of course, if we are, for example, using a software engineer as an example, so and thinking the value what, for example, the software engineer can provide for the maritime industry. So of course, the most valuable guy there is that who is also able to understand the industry needs. So who knows the maritime industry? For example, if you are planning to go to the cruise vessel, so you need to understand that what is the overall cruise vessel concept, what the crew really wants, and using that information, you are then able to use these like industry specific software developments and etc. But I think my dream would have like a guy who is very good to using power electronics and building the software around that, and I think those guys are really rare at this stage. But hopefully in the future, the fresh minds who are now working downstairs are able to do that in the future.
There is 2 for me. The first one is definitely to have a link between the old world and the new world, and especially for the pilots, because today the boats are digital, and it's very hard, for the traditional pilots to, have these, it's like when you go from a thermic car to a Tesla. First time you say, "Oh, I'm driving my iPad or what?" And it's the same with the digital boat. You have to change the way you pilot. So we don't have people, that can do this link between the old and new digital boats. And the other one is what you said. It's exactly that. It's what we have built MobyFly around is take the software, link it to the flight control, to the hardware, to the foils, to have them, mobile, and all this technology between mechanical and software and electric. It's mixing 3 words, and there is no academia that teaches this relationship between the 3. They teach electronic, they teach mechanical, they teach electric, but the relationship between the three of them, I mean, we didn't found, and if you find, tell me.
Yeah. I've thought of one. I actually think in 10 years' time, there will be a new job which will be drone captain. I think there'll be a lot of autonomous marine vessels, and how they communicate. This is out of your idea of drones and how they're orchestrated in the sky now, how autonomous vehicles are coming on land. I think there'll be a lot of short haul vessel driving that is done by robotic systems, and there will be somebody somewhere who's got a very big brain running the software that makes all of that happen. So there will be incredible networks of little vessels running around all over the place that don't have humans driving them. Humans are really expensive, they're unreliable, they have accidents, and pretty quickly I think technology is going to be able to deliver a better solution to that, but somebody's got to run those systems, and that will be an incredibly responsible and highly paid job. So that's my prediction.
Like for the sky.
Anybody have any questions for them about the future? They can predict the future, so now is the time. Please, give me.
Hi, Matko Barisic from ABB Marine Ports. I have two questions. I'll try to make them both short, easy to answer. One is, do you really think what you described previously to the previous question is a software engineer, or more properly an automation or mobile control engineer? And then the second, I will just shoot off both, and then you give the word over to the panel and the rest of the people. And the second is, don't you think it's a little bit of a tall order, this, I know you're coming from mostly SME, so they're always in search of like 10X and Ninja developers, but that's a tall wish list that I was listening to right now. I mean, people who are extremely good at power electronics engineering, and then software, and then batteries, and then foil hydrodynamics. Is that a little bit something you should prime the expectations of your VC guys on what they can find in the labor market? So thanks.
You need to be good in one thing, at least specialist, okay? But then what make us good, what is to link all these. So that's what we developed in terms of know-how, is how to put these people together and make the mechanical engineer work with the software engineer of the flight control and the electrical guy, because everything is connected in a hydrofoil. So if you cannot connect the three specialists and you cannot make them understand the overall picture, you don't have a stable flight. That's for sure. So, and today that does not exist in the academia. So when people comes, they are electrical or mechanical or electronic. And then we have to put these coordination methodology, because they don't bring it from the academia for sure. But we don't have we didn't find someone with everything, unless maybe one of our co-founders, but it's yeah, you know. We cannot just have people, or I'm comfortable. I'm not 21. You can double and more. I'm 55, so you have the expertise, the experience, but working with the young people that come with a fresh eye, it's not enough, but they bring also, you know, their own methodology, the way they work with AI, with other methodologies, and, you know, it's putting all these together. And then sometimes they come with a fresh idea, and then the experienced people say, okay, you know what? Might work, but my feeling and my expertise tell me that you might encounter these. issues on your road. So test it, but take care of this. And we're here to help them improve, and we're here also to help them grow with us and with the company, and that's our future. And we cannot be just seniors. We also need to prepare the next generation.
Yeah, I can add to the software question that, of course, there is a lot of different kind of softwares, and if we are using very rough, like or dividing the software for example, software for the autonomous vessel, for example, that is one thing. But then, of course, one thing is like I think more like a software engineer for the automation, who is then able to integrate different kind of parts together. And then answer to the second question is that of course when you are graduating, so you cannot be understanding new very complicated system. But I think then the passion comes to the case that more passion you have. So then you are able to learn new things. If you are doing software now, but you have a high motivation, so maybe you can self-educate yourself to the power electronics, and that then expand your thing. For example, my major in university was industrial engineering. But then I started to travel almost 5 years around the world, and now I'm like self-made electrical engineer for the microgrids. And I think that's the passion. That university is only giving the tools, and I think the rest of is up to you. So where do you want to go, and what do you want to learn?
Excuse me. I agree 100%. The only thing when we hire someone from the university, we just are sure that is someone that can learn something, because he has a degree, so that means that he has an ability to learn. That's all that we have.
It's been remiss of us not to mention everybody in the value chain and all the different skill sets that are involved in the marine. We've kind of focused on engineers and software engineers and things like that. And I think you mentioned, the VC market and what they are attracted to. They're the least skilled of anybody we're talking about, and they only want to see something shiny and new and young and bright and brilliant and wonderful and unproven. That's what the VC market's all about. So we embrace that with open arms, because frankly they're not interested in boat drivers and electricians and people that do all the other critically important jobs in our industry. There's, the truck driver that brings the massive battery to site. They want the whiz kid from here that has got some crazy concept, because that's where they think there's a return on their capital. So we have to play the marketing game as well as the real game.
We have time for just one last quick question, and the answer should be brief as well. There was a second, please. You have a...
Okay. Good morning. I'm Andreas Apostolopoulos from Greece. About the question that Andrea made about the future jobs, or let's say studies, our colleague here from maybe will laugh. Give my regards to Aerolech Tovara, my friend. Okay, but from my experience, from my country, I came from Greece. Naval engineers or naval architects, I don't know how are you calling them in your country, they don't know nothing about propulsion systems, but also from power energy systems. They know how to construct or design the boats and the ships, but they don't know how to choose the correct engines or the correct power. So if we can predict a little bit from the future, we are going to need two professionals. The one is going to be the power engineers, who are going to be expertise in the power systems that they are going to give to each customer. And the second one is going to be the propulsion visual engineers, because as I told you, our naval architects, they don't have the experience to choose the correct, at least and specifically in the electrification of boats, they don't know how to choose anything. So, we need a guy that he can, at least in a first step, in a visual step, to choose the correct motor and then to apply these ideas and studies into the field, as we say, into the boat. So if we have to name these studies or these professionals, has to be the Navy visual propulsion engineer and the power engineers, who are going to be the expertise people that they are going to choose the correct energy for the correct boat, because not everything goes to everything in every boat. So
the question.
You said, Mrs. Putallaz, you said that you have take the designs and the studies from flights in order to construct the MobyFly, correct?
For the flight control.
From the flight control. So you are saying that is the second time in the history of boats that we are going to use a study, an area from the aerospace into the boats. So maybe the aerospace engineers is something that you are going to need, because the first time that we have used the aerospace engineer was when we designed the new designs of sails. Now you are saying that is the second time. So maybe the expertise that you need is the aerospace engineers?
We mix aerospace engineers in our industrial platform, automotive industry. We have less problems on the powertrain, because there is a lot of people knowing about the electric powertrain. In Geneva, electric boats are running since 20 years, day and night. So it's not so new. It's maybe more new for the hydrofoils, but for electric boat, the electric boat exists in public transportation, and we are running since 20 years. So we have the expertise. The powertrains, ABB has also expertise in the powertrains. I don't think there is a real issue in the powertrains within the maritime industry. There is more on the electrification for the hydrofoils, because we have to connect with the flight control and the foils. Then we have another challenge, but for the powertrain itself, it's not a real issue today.
Please give a big applause to our panelists. Can we take a picture with them? Thank you. Data, information, and the AEMA Blue Terminal. Little announcement. AEMA's goal is to start publishing sales and other market indicators by the end of 2024, and to build the first maritime data terminal to calculate real-time scores for safety and performance purposes. The vision is clear, although big questions arise in terms of cybersecurity, antitrust, and what kind of data is relevant and for whom. Our panelists have and will share their insights on what data is needed, how to prioritize it, and what gaps currently exist. Before we dive into our discussion, please welcome our panelists, Bas, Nathan, and Ollie. Nathan, you want to start? Quick introduction.
Yeah, all good.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nathan Steele, CTO of Seabird Technologies. We're an early stage startup developing marine technology. We're going a few years now. You may have come across us. We're known for having developed the all-electric foiling race boat, the Racebird, which will be racing here later this month at the next E1 GP. Actually, linking to the panel you had just now on the team subject, similar to MobyFly. We've got highly experienced, highly specialized team from automotive, aeronautical, motorsport, particularly in Formula 1, Formula E. And what attracts them is obviously all the kind of cool, shiny stuff that we're working on. But I think they, like we do, all of us, see the opportunity in the marine industry. So all of that expertise from other industries being applied to marine. So with that team, our main focus these days is on electric propulsion systems. So everything from energy storage, power distribution, all the way through to propulsive units. So we're trying to develop that in a scalable way so that it's targeting everything from leisure through to commercial.
Bas.
Thank you. So I'm Bas Edmonds, work for a notified body, HPI Verification Services, and we're accredited to the Recreational Craft Directive and the Pressure Equipment Directive. Those two don't seem to go hand in hand, but as we have pressure vessels coming on board hydrogen boats, the two are starting to work much better together going forwards. Our experiences are we're a certifying agency, so we're not producing products. We're looking at them from a compliance perspective, assessing them against standards, and then enabling you as producers of products to put them onto the market and into service. The challenges that we're seeing is around, we've always had electrical components on boats, but it's the software element and the capturing of the data that's within that software that ensures compliance that is becoming a challenge for us as certifying agencies. How do we ensure that software that we test goes onto the boats? We're seeing remote uploading of new updates to software going on board, and who's responsible for that going forward? So there's an awful lot of challenges we see in terms of data, the management, manufacturer responsibility, ensuring ongoing compliance, and our responsibility and liability in terms of making sure that the certification remains valid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, Ollie Taylor. I'm Associate Director at Anthesis Group, who are one of the largest pure play sustainability consultancies globally. And within that, I run one very specific project, which is called Marine Shift 360, which is a life cycle assessment tool. So I deal with large volumes of data on a daily basis, and we use that data to, one, understand the baseline impact of the vessel being studied, but two, also then use that data to simulate all the variables in a production system to try and work out the lowest impact solution for a certain problem. So I approach this data conundrum very much from an environmental angle and using it to find the lowest impact solutions available.
Thank you. Since you have the microphone, what are the biggest challenges in terms of accessing relevant data to advance the electric marine industry?
Availability and quality is generally the problem. People have not historically collected the data we now need to simulate future situations. So we're really at kind of ground zero in terms of the availability. Within life cycle assessment, what you're looking at, the types of data you're looking at is predominantly the bill of materials, so all of the raw materials that go into a product, but also the duty cycle. How is that vessel actually used in the real world? Historically, we've thrown lots of power at fairly inefficient hulls to perform a certain task because we've lived in a world with energy abundance. It's very cheap, it's very accessible thanks to fossil fuels. The new world we are now entering / living in is an energy scarce world in a certain respect, that we need to create energy from renewable sources. That is not in abundance right now today. So the systems that we then install on board boats need to be highly efficient. But we also need to understand how the boat's used, because we've kind of been lazy in our design potentially around just throwing lots of power because that was the easy thing to do. Now we need to work out how a vessel is used, and then you create a solution that is optimized to that use cycle. Again, duty cycles not widely available, so it's something that we constantly work with Nathan and producers like those guys to really help quantify that problem and then create solutions that are lower impact.
Bas? What are the biggest challenges in terms of accessing relevant data to advance the electric marine industry?
It's going to be quite difficult to link that to the certification world, I'm afraid. What we're seeing is effectively manufacturers making an awful lot of decisions without a standard to back them up a lot of the time. And it's that those decisions, they're capturing the data as they're going along, but for no real understanding of why they're doing it. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And as the standard evolves, and as the standard comes out into place that we can use to certify a piece of equipment, the manufacturer may have not captured the right data at that point. And it's very difficult for them to backtrack that once they've put that product into market and the standard overtakes the product.
Yeah, I guess just to echo what Ollie and Baz just said there, I mean, in a nutshell, there's just not a lot of it, period, which is unfortunate. So coming from the angle of a startup trying to develop our own products, clean sheet designs, you want to be data-driven, there's just not a lot of data out there. So you become creative and you get around that problem, but it's not like aerospace and automotive where it's either well-regulated or well-known, agreed. It's not as fragmented as the marine industry, but regardless, marine as a whole is way behind where it should be in relation to the other industries. So I mean, talk about life cycle analysis. When we've looked at life cycle assessments and we've spoken with suppliers, if they know about what an LCA is, first you have to educate them on that. And if they do, it's rare that they have any meaningful data that they can actually input into it. And then from a duty cycle perspective, I mean, a lot of OEMs just don't know how the boats are being used. So it's a bit of guesswork, which isn't great when you're trying to make something that's efficient and not oversized, not overspec'd, which, as Ollie said, a lot of these boats probably around here are using way more energy and have way more materials on board than they actually need.
That's a good point. Out of this data and existent, what would be, if you had a wish, a wish, what would be the top 3, okay, 1 to 3 indicators that you would be like, and not just from your company, from competitors? Which one would you think that should be common and everybody should chip in?
I don't know which type of data. What I do know, though, is if I could wave a magic wand, it would be to interconnect all of the systems that don't currently talk to each other. Because if you can then have free data exchange, you can really start leveraging it at scale. The issue we have, to speak freely with our platform, for instance, is lots of people look at it and go, LCA is brilliant, but there's so much data I have to enter into your tool. Is there any way I can just plug my ERP system in and the back ends talk to each other? The reality is that's quite complex to do. It's not simple. It's possible, but having that solution of free data from the very beginning of a product's life, in terms of the raw material extraction, the design phase, the production, the use, the end of life, that's a solution I'd like to see if someone could wave a magic wand.
I think part of IEMA is all of the collaboration, and I think that is only going to help going forwards. What we see is manufacturers trying to create a niche element of their market, trying to do something different. And when it comes to the standardization of that, it becomes very difficult because everything's spread out all over the place, and trying to bring that back into one standard becomes incredibly difficult. So the collaboration, so the space you've got and you're creating for people to share data and share ideas, I think is really important to create standard products. Not necessarily the same product, they will all have their unique features, but to be able to create something that you can create a standard against, I think is the collaboration, the data element of sharing on that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess if we're getting our wands out, then and thinking to the future, you can see that everything will become we'll have numerous sensors on board, right? There'll be we'll have sensors everywhere, collecting all this data, uploading to the cloud. If there was a way for that to be all sort of aggregated by like a body like IEMA that could then strip all of the sort of confidential data out of it, whether that's boat usage to help drive duty cycle, as well as life cycle analysis, and help with creating proper and more meaningful regulations, that would be massive, because then anyone can come along, any startup, or even a company wants to shift away from gasoline-powered things to electric things. They can see, okay, right, these are the standards that I need to shoot for, and but I think we're quite far off that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the blue terminal will help with that.
Hopefully. For private companies and for those of you that work with multiple clients, do you think that companies have a sense of the cost to mine, storage, crush, and scrutinize that data? Does anybody have any real idea of the cost on the bottom line?
I don't know. I think some probably do. I wouldn't say it's widespread. We do, because we use lots of data, we store lots of data. I think the key is data in isolation is kind of meaningless. Where you gain value is the insight, the overlay that you can apply to the data. And I think that's where we need to get to as an industry, is really gaining insight from the mass data set that could be provided via something like the Blue Terminal, and really, I guess, collectively working together to work out what are the insights that we want to see, what adds value to our business, what do our investors want to see fundamentally as well, because there's a whole different angle there where we're talking about performance data and environmental data, but having standard market insight into this new emerging industry is going to make it much easier to drive investment from VC, private equity, wherever it's coming from. Because at the minute, I'd say it's kind of bit of the Wild West. There's a huge lack of real world data there. Apologies, probably not answering the question very directly there.
I think I'll do the same. It's a challenge, and I think echoing Ollie's thoughts, that I don't think anyone's really costed it out at all. They're, as I said, they're working with what they've got in front of them. They're trying to get their products to market. They're just trying to develop what they think is the best for the industry going forwards. And then they will look backwards and go, oh, maybe we should have captured that, but not understanding what the costs are going to be in the future.
Yeah, I guess we were fortunate that we're a new company, so we didn't have all the legacy sort of software, hardware issues that other companies might be facing. So we went straight to cloud. Pretty much everything. Actually, storing data is pretty inexpensive. I mean, we collect a lot of data off the racebirds, obviously, through that telemetry system. But even that is relatively sort of insignificant as a cost. And then obviously do all that sort of computing as well on it. But like as Ollie said, it's make sure you're capturing the right thing to start with. So you need to have the right sensor in the right place. And set up correctly, and then over time you get to see the trends and the relationships, and you can start to really sort of, as you said, get some insights. But as a cost, it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, yeah, the cost of data is the analyst you employ to extract the insight at the minute. Perhaps AI is the interesting angle there, where I personally use that a lot to extract insight from large data sets. But yeah, I think that to clarify, storing it, yeah, not too expensive at the minute. Driving value from it, different question.
On that data, we've been talking on separate basis the famous IEMA Blue Terminal, which is a dream that collectively or individually everybody have a vision and idea of how the shape, the purpose, the service that this will provide. I believe that it will be a reality someday, soon, hopefully. But one of the major issues that we have at addressing is the legal framework. Bas, from the legal perspective, from the compliance perspective, how feasible do you think it is for companies to share. We're saying that it should be a must, and we know that over the years now the companies will start addressing these internally. As you have a marketing cost, you will have a data cost. How, from the compliance point of view, think that this is feasible, or actually what are the difficulties that they will face in the industry to all share a common backend?
I think the industry should be moving towards that, but it's not there at the moment. I think the challenge is, I'm signing an NDA probably with every client at the moment. There's not an awful lot of sharing feeling going on, and especially when you've got an innovative market where people are trying to find that niche element for their product, it's very difficult to encourage that industry then to share those ideas before it goes to market. And as I said, we're signing NDAs all of the time with different clients because they don't want to share that information going forwards.
I understand. Do you find the same, I assume, from a thesis perspective?
Absolutely. I think sustainability can drive competitive advantage in the marketplace. So no one wants to share their unique innovation until it's ready to be put on the marketplace. I think a lot of this question is linked to the way investors expect payback as well in quite traditional financial markets. Nobody's going to solve the climate crisis on their own in isolation. We are only going to solve it as a collective working together. So how we do that, I don't have the answer to that. I know that is required as a solution though, because each one of us doing our individual bit will not aggregate to the total solution that's required. So this industry operating in a pre-competitive way, if we can get to that place, is going to enable all of us to go much further together. Or at least that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think everyone is signing NDAs left, right, centre, right, to try and protect their IP and their ideas. And I suppose a way around that is to at least agree some very basic things that people are willing to share that doesn't give any sort of competitive advantage away, even if it's like when you're, whether it's a boat or a system on a vessel, tracking some very basic information, just like speed and location, assuming that's not private info, that can help to build up simple things like a drive cycle over time. Even with basic data like that, where a vessel doesn't have a transponder, so you can't get the data through AIS or whatever. Mm-hmm. So even some very, very basic data would be hugely beneficial and would sort of move us on a bit as a body and as an industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would say that there is a group where industry and manufacturers come together, and that is around the ISO standards working group. And I think you put up earlier on that engagement in those standards help drives a uniform approach to solving problems. We do see industry coming together and trying to help write a standard that benefits everyone going forward.
Yeah. Ollie, the famous LCA, right? You guys being an expert on that field. I believe that especially in the EU, they set parameters on certain size companies, X amount of employees to disclose on. How do you think this will affect the smaller companies and emerging, industry?
Yeah, legislation isn't something that we should rely on to drive massive change in this industry, is my honest opinion on that. All of the legislation you see in the European Union is currently aimed at kind of publicly listed companies who are in the most impacting industries, so things like apparel, food production, energy production, they're all much more regulated. Where it gets interesting, though, is things like the European Sustainable Products Regulation, which I talked about this morning briefly, which is part of this wider network of legislation, things like extended producer responsibility, CBAM, it all comes together under this one framework where the European Union are aiming to get people to disclose the environmental impact and kind of the end-of-life solutions actually is a lot of what this is aimed at for any product. And that will be tracked via a digital product passport. So again, it comes back to this data element of tracking a material from the start of its life to the end of its life, and then making the manufacturer of said product material responsible for the disposal cost. So people aren't just producing loads of stuff and putting it on the market, and then they have no responsibility. It ends up with the end user to dispose of a product. So that sort of legislation will drive change in this space, but thinking that there's going to be someone saying, yep, these large polluting fossil-powered super yachts are no longer, that's not allowed, that's just not going to happen. We probably, the bigger threat to the industry or the traditional industry is the social license to operate, and that angle where the generational shift in ownership is happening slowly, albeit slowly, where the next generation of vessel owners don't want to necessarily own it as an asset. They want to enjoy using it, and things like circular ownership, shared ownership, fractional ownership. And that generational shift will be the bigger push for the industry to really decarbonise. Relying on legislation to force this is unlikely, in my view. But yeah, the social licence to operate is a much more interesting angle, which, you know, all of you guys are very well prepared for, given, you know, you're producing electric vessels.
Yeah, agreed. Nathan, from the LCA perspective, what would you think that it will be morally accepted to demand or to implement for AEMA members to comply and have those assessments available, you know, on a quarterly basis, on annual basis, regardless the timeline? But is there should be a must or not?
I guess we could start with at least a commitment to do one would be a good start. So if everyone, you know, if there's a charter that said, okay, we don't have one in place right now, but we commit to do one within the next 12 to 18 months, and then keep on top of it, and then as future products come out, they also come with an LCA. I think that's kind of reasonable, because it does take time to go through your supply chain, speak with all your suppliers, understand where everything's come from. As we said earlier, a lot of them don't have that data, so they have to go and do that work. Obviously, things like Marine Shift has a number of those parameters available already, which helps. But the state you want to be getting to is obviously people are doing it as they're designing their product, so they're making choices that are more sustainable. Because there are choices. There are, you know, there's a decision between cost and sustainability, and sometimes, you know, revenue outstrips sustainability, but people need to know what those decisions they're making are. A lot of them just make them anyway, whereas tools can help that. But I think we should all be aiming to try and do LCAs as part of as our sort of ongoing businesses.
Nathan said, so that's going to be his fault now. Bas, the last question before we get into Q&A. You mentioned previously there is and there will be some, I don't know, issues, but definitely, you know, some frictions related to software mapping. Can you elaborate a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think previously software was kind of ignored from the directive perspective, and the software is now starting to affect parts of the testing that we would need to do on board a boat, engine mapping, power management, simple things like starting gear, where it used to be a mechanical test, is now an electrical software test that we'd have to extract that software, assess it, make sure it's the same software that we tested. And similar with the Sally that we went out earlier on today, it's got 3 different engine modes that you've got. They're fully customizable, so when we're doing a handling test on a boat, we need to make sure that it's operating at its maximum power to make sure that the test is done in the worst case scenario. I don't think we're going to get to a situation where we've got the Volkswagen diesel emissions scandal. I think our industry is much more responsible than that in terms of these are safety elements. But yeah, there's the software side of it is really concerning from our side, because we need to understand what's being shown and presented to us in order to test it, in order to say that's correct and can be put onto market. So it's it's a challenging environment. And I think the previous panel was talking about more software engineers. We're thinking about getting a software engineer from our certification side of things, so we can start analysing software that's presented to us.
Agreed. Any questions from the public? No? So please, one applause to these Beautiful. Oh, sorry. Who was it? Oh, go. Sorry. I need glasses.
No, I was not fast enough. Uli, you are working on gathering this data, etc. How do you imagine that we can, because I truly believe that you're right, we need to put a lot on common if we want to win the race. But we still have to face these old mindset of the investors and protect your IP and blah, blah, blah. How do you think, can we go, is there any system, blind system, when we can put our data and the persons that would contribute would have or would receive also, kind of insight from this? Because indeed we have a lot of data and it doesn't cost for having this data, but it costs a lot to us to interpret the data, to have the right decision. Okay, how we can improve this, considering this flight, considering these data, how we can improve the powertrain, the flight control, etc., etc., etc. So I think, and I hope that IEMA can, and all the players can put together a system where we share in a blind way and anonymous, and then we can gather these insights. So do you have imagined something for that?
Yeah, completely agree. I think, not to steal Adria's thunder in the way this blue terminal might perhaps develop, the key element to that platform working, I think, is independence of the provider, that there's no bias or there's no commercial interest. And then everyone has a mandate to contribute, but what they return back is this anonymized data set which drives genuine value. I think that's the logical solution for this sort of platform. The key bit is just working out what we want it to do, which data insight is the most valuable for the group. Building it from a software perspective, all that sort of stuff is infinitely doable. We do need a commitment, though, from everyone involved to submit data. I was talking earlier to Adria that the leisure marine industry did a kind of similar thing, or has been running for a number of years. A chap called Phil Draper creates an industry insight report. The premise is, if you're a manufacturer, and this is like Ferretti, San Lorenzo, Sunseeker, those types of companies, you basically have to commit to, on a quarterly basis, putting in all of your production figures, and then for a very low cost back, you get to see the entire industry's production figures, to see the trends in market segments, all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a similar sort of angle here, possibly with more anonymized data within it, because that's actually quite transparent. But that's the solution we need to get to. Or we need these very visionary investors. And an example I'd point everyone to go and look at is a project called Project Zero, which is funded by Foundation Zero. Vripak Semanix was here last year presenting it. And the owner, visionary owner, has committed to open sourcing every single system on board that yacht, so everyone can benefit from it. What we need is more people like that, really, and then we will collectively move the dial, because as I said, doing it in isolation, we won't solve these problems.
Hi, everyone. Name is Sam Pirovi from Codename Elixir. Couple of things, when we're talking about buying in and providing our data, every company here, I think, is very different. So the question is, what is that data that you're committing? That means different companies have different levels of buy-in, so it creates kind of an uneven playing field. I'm sure that can all be worked out. But I think the larger challenge, which there is a solution to, is how do you incentivize these companies to say, I'm willing to give something up, because not just it's for the greater good, but it's also for the greater part of my company as well, right? So we all have greater visions because we're in this economy, right? It's not all about capitalism, but the reality is a lot of that does play out. So if there was a system where the benefit of being in some kind of a closed loop and those people share that data and what they get ultimately by sharing is greater, and it could be access to the larger data, it could be a larger investor who comes in and says, I will seed you, or I will help capitalize you. I think that's where you start to find ways that things work, because I, as an early stage company, say, I'm ultimately going to get more than I'm going to put in. And that's what an early stage company generally has to do to get their system off the ground, whatever it may be. So That's my 2 cents. I don't know if you guys agree with that. You started to tap into that. There's another company called Ocean Zero, who's a big investor in this space. They're investing in multiple companies. He's creating something of a closed loop, just like that. If something bigger could be created that you guys could tap into, I think it would work.
I mean, we're going through all these questions. This is the exact train of thought that we go over and over. And we've done so far 3 or 4 meetings internally across the corporate members, different focus. And right now, I can find a little consensus that if there is any sweet spot where we all find that, regardless of the size or region, seems to be the charging infrastructure. That's what seems to be that everybody's sharing. Regardless if you are in freshwater, oceanfront, you are a cargo or a little recreational boat, you need to charge it. So understanding the AC/DC flow of energy on that last mile would be, at least at first sight, seems to be kind of reasonable. That if we start there mapping out, then it will be easier to add the other layers. But hey, maybe in 6 months we come back into the table and we realize that, that's the purpose of having AEMA, is to have this open conversation and allow all the members to contribute and find consensus across. Yeah? Any other questions? We good? Thank you very much. You all look beautiful here. I have to say, very proud, everyone, for making the effort to come here. It's amazing the difference between today and last September. And I want you to remember today, because in a year from now, it's going to be amazing. And then 5 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, you remember when we were, like 30 people? Remember that. It's always like that. So today is very special. I'll see you tomorrow for our members' meeting, and let's talk around and let's go into the water and see all this energy that is by the water, which is truly amazing. Thank you.